It is the 12th century, the absolute height of the Crusades. A massive European transport ship is bound for the Holy Land. Below deck, thousands of soldiers are packed into near total darkness. They have enclosed wooden decks, minimal ventilation, and shared drinking water drawn from stagnant wooden barrels. Within days of leaving port, dysentery and epidemic typhus begin to tear through the ranks. The air becomes thick with the suffocating stench of human waste and fever sweat. Men who survived brutal siege warfare and hand-to-hand combat are vomiting blood and emptying their bowels onto the wooden planks. Disease claims them below deck before they ever see the shoreline, let alone the enemy. During the Third Crusade, disease losses aboard ships vastly exceeded battlefield casualties. By every law of modern medicine, a medieval ship was a floating coffin. One contaminated hand, one shared water barrel, and the entire crew collapses. Rewind the clock 300 years to the 9th century. A Norse longship cuts directly through the freezing spray of the North Sea. It is roughly 30 meters long and just under 3 meters wide. That equates to 2 men per meter of deck space. 60 heavily muscled oarsmen are working in brutal shifts, sleeping right between the wooden rowing benches, eating cold provisions, while the freezing rain soaks through their woolen cloaks. There are no surgeons. There are no sanitation regulations. There is no sick bay, and there are absolutely zero toilets. When the violent ocean storms hit, there is no going below deck to shelter, because there is no deck below. Hands slick with sweat grip the same wooden oars. Food is passed between fingers that haven't seen fresh water in days. Men huddle together for warmth, breathing the exact same damp, freezing air in a space tighter than a modern maximum security prison cell. Disease in tight quarters operates with mathematical certainty. It spreads like fire through dry timber. And yet, year after year, decade after decade, Viking fleets launched, raided, traded, and returned home. There were no mass outbreaks. There were no fleet-killing epidemics. They maintained total operational capability across 3 centuries of maritime dominance. Medieval Crusader fleets with enclosed decks and formal infrastructure bred mass disease. Viking longships with zero infrastructure did not. They sailed the exact same oceans, faced the exact same bacteria, and had completely different outcomes. To understand why the civilized empires died, while the so-called barbarians thrived, you have to look at the ruthless mechanics of their survival. Hollywood has fed you a massive lie. The image of the filthy, blood-spattered Viking raider with matted hair and rotten teeth is a complete fabrication. The archaeological record tells a radically different, almost obsessive story. When an Arab diplomat named Ahmad ibn Fadlan encountered Norse traders in the year 921, he documented something that genuinely shocked him. These hardened Northmen washed every single day. Centuries later, English chroniclers complained bitterly about the Viking settlers. Their grievance had nothing to do with violence. They were enraged because the strict Viking hygiene was making the Norsemen too attractive to English women. Across Scandinavia, Britain, and Iceland, Viking burial sites consistently contain the exact same personal items. Buried right alongside the battle axes and iron swords are ornately carved bone combs and small ear spoons made from antler. They took complete grooming kits to the grave. These were not the possessions of primitive barbarians. These were the tools of a people who considered cleanliness a matter of strict, uncompromising identity. But how did a civilization this committed to hygiene uphold those standards on open wooden vessels with no sanitation infrastructure? The answer is a brilliant, decentralized system of survival. Start with the ship itself. Archaeologists have excavated Viking vessels for over a century, and across every single excavation, there is a glaring absence. No chamber pots, no latrines, no waste chutes, nothing. Viking shipbuilders were ruthless engineers. Every single element served speed, flexibility, or survival. Anything that did not earn its weight was left on the beach. Sanitation infrastructure fell into that category because the ship's design already solved the problem. A longship's freeboard, the distance from the waterline to the edge of the deck, was barely half a meter. If you stood at the bow, the violent, churning ocean was right there. You could trail your fingers in the freezing waves without even leaning over. Human waste went straight overboard, instantly. Nothing accumulated. Nothing festered. The immense volume of moving salt water diluted the pathogens within seconds. But the true genius was in the hull. The overlapping wooden clinker planks, sealed with tarred animal hair, were intentionally never perfectly watertight. Freezing seawater seeped in constantly. The crews had to bail the bilge daily as a routine physical mechanism. Any organic debris, food scraps, or accidental contamination mixed with that seawater and was manually thrown overboard within hours. There were no stagnant pools. There were no anaerobic pockets where lethal bacteria could breed. It was a constant, natural flush. Now compare that to a medieval Crusader transport. They had deep enclosed bilges sealed beneath heavy timber decks. Waste accumulated in standing water for weeks at a time. Those bilges became toxic, bubbling cesspools of rotting organic material. Bilge fever, which is essentially sepsis from inhaling decomposing matter, devastated European crews. The Viking ship was open, leaking, and continuously flushed by the ocean. The medieval ship was sealed, stagnant, and completely lethal. Then there was the drinking water. Fresh water stored in dark wooden barrels turns deadly within a matter of weeks. Bacteria multiply rapidly in the pitch black. Lethal strains of E. Coli breed deep in the microscopic grain of the wet wood. Later, European navies learned to fear the water barrel as much as enemy cannons. The Norse bypassed this biological trap entirely. They did not drink fresh water at sea. They carried weak beer, which was accidentally pasteurized through the intense heat of the brewing process. They also carried heavy fermented sour milk. The high acidity in the fermentation process actively suppressed the exact bacteria that made stored water lethal. They didn't understand the microbiology, but they observed the hard results. They drank sour, fermented rations, and they lived. But the ship was only half the equation. Over 200 documented harbor sites have been identified across their trade routes, forming a massive network of logistical reset points. Every time they beached the ships, it was a total sanitation reset. The men went ashore. Woolen clothes were heavily scrubbed in freezing streams. Bodies were violently scoured with coarse sand and cold water. But the most critical defense mechanism was what they did with their time on land. The Old Norse root word for Saturday literally translates to washing day. Every seventh day, without exception, Vikings bathed. It was not a luxury. It was a non-negotiable cultural obligation, and their daily combing was equally absolute. Those ornate bone combs found in the graves were not vanity items. They were precision medical weapons. The bacterium that causes epidemic typhus spreads directly through the feces of body lice. When a man scratches an itchy louse bite, he rubs the infected feces directly into his own bloodstream. Medieval European armies routinely lost more soldiers to typhus than to swords and arrows. The daily meticulous combing by the Vikings physically removed adult lice from their hair and beards before the insects could lay eggs. The weekly bathing disrupted the parasite's entire reproductive cycle. The ultimate difference between Viking hygiene and medieval European hygiene wasn't just physical technology, it was peer pressure. The Viking hygiene system worked because the enforcement mechanism was brutal and uncompromising. There were no laws, no health inspectors, and no bureaucracy. There was only the intense, crushing shame of the crew. On a longship carrying 60 men, reputation was your only survival currency. Showing up unwashed, unkempt, and crawling with lice was not a private failing. It was a biological threat to every other man aboard. Social pressure enforced compliance far more effectively than any written regulation ever could. Each crew member became an active node in a highly disciplined defense network. One man's discipline protected the entire group. One man's neglect endangered everyone. Medieval Europe took the exact opposite approach. Mainstream medical opinion at the time actually believed that bathing was extremely dangerous. Educated physicians claimed that warm water opened the pores and allowed deadly diseases to enter the body. The kings, nobles, and peasants of Europe were actively discouraged from washing. And when the Black Death arrived in 1347, it found a continent perfectly prepared to receive it. It found incredibly crowded cities, open sewers flowing through the streets, and a population crawling with infected fleas and lice. The medieval world built massive stone cathedrals, sprawling universities, and complex legal codes, but they left basic hygiene to individual preference. They died by the millions, coughing blood in their pristine castles. The Norse built a culture where cleanliness was identity, and where a man's comb was treated with the exact same reverence as his battle axe. They didn't have microscopes or germ theory. They couldn't explain the microbiology of why their system worked, but they understood that survival in the harshest environments on Earth requires relentless, unforgiving discipline. The supposedly civilized empires rotted from the inside out. The so-called barbarians survived because they turned hygiene into an absolute weapon. If you want to fortify your understanding of history's most brutal realities and ensure your tactical advantage remains absolute, secure your place in the garrison. The next historical operation is already plotted on the war table. Click it and prepare for deployment.